And welcome to episode 52 of the TechnoBuffalo Show. I'm one of your two hosts for today, Sean, editor-in-chief of the site. I'm joined by Deputy Managing Editor Todd Hazelton.
Hey, everybody.
How are you doing today, Todd?
Good. Good day.
Good. It's been a busy week.
Yeah,
busy
with E3. I sent out the newsletter. Actually, it went out this morning, but I was talking about it yesterday when I was writing it, and just going through all the gaming posts we've had out of E3 is incredible. It's like its own several Apple days in a row, almost. Just the amount of news.
Well, I think the problem this year was we had more press conferences than we've ever had before. With Bethesda had its first one ever. Square joined in. You know, it was crazy for a couple days there. But now we're just down to Joey and Eric are out there. They're going to all their hands-on sessions. You know, which of course is the fun but busy part of the thing. Actually, John is on his way to E3 as we speak.
Oh, nice.
And Joey has no time in his schedule to even run by him and say hello.
I know. Well, I was there, it was probably like 5 years ago now, and just waiting in the lines and stuff like that to see things. It's crazy. It's unlike any other show.
Well, luckily, Joey has been part of the gaming industry long enough that he has actual appointments where they take him into little rooms for the hands-on sessions. So he isn't waiting for the kiosks, luckily.
Right. Yeah, that's awesome.
If he was, we would be in deep trouble. But Joey will be on the show next week, folks, to go over all of his thoughts and feelings about E3. So definitely be sure to tune in for that.
Nice.
Today, since we are the non-gaming guys, we're going to touch a little bit on what's been going on at E3. Although the first thing I want to mention is, hey, here, have a new Kindle Paperwhite.
Yeah, right. This morning, Amazon announced a new Kindle Paperwhite out of nowhere. Just has a sharper display, 300 pixels per inch, so which is twice as sharp as last year's model, and it has a new font. I forget what they're calling it.
Yeah, I forget the name of it as well. What was funny, though, was when you put the post into the system, I had been to Amazon just a little bit before that to check out the affiliate system for the day and all that. And it wasn't up at that point.
Yeah, it literally just hit, and I was like, oh, weird. I'll write this. Because back in the day, I don't know, obviously when the first Kindle came out and then the year after, they would hold these press conferences, everybody got excited about it. Now it's sort of just like, here's we're doing this, we're going to continue doing this, and here's a new model.
Yeah. Well, I have last year's Paperwhite, which I love.
Yeah.
But I see no reason to upgrade this year. I mean, it's not like a phone or whatever. It's like, if it's working for you, it's working for you.
Right, exactly.
But I'm glad Amazon keeps that line going, and there's no reason they shouldn't. It's the number one selling e-reader.
Right.
But it's definitely doing better than the Fire phone.
That's right.
Well, we do have a couple of topics we want to touch on today. And Todd, I believe you did watch the HoloLens presentation at Microsoft.
I watched part of it. I was watching the Minecraft stuff, which was crazy.
Yeah, that was pretty much the only thing they showed.
Right.
And that was enough to break your brain.
Yeah.
For those of you that didn't see it, what they did was they demonstrated that you could play Minecraft on a wall, and they were using a camera that would show you HoloLens projections, although people in the room could not see them.
Right.
So they started off playing on the wall, and then the guy said, let's move it to the table, and using a voice command, it moved to the table.
Mm-hmm. And
I'll get to you in a second why I don't think it was pre-recorded demo. There was a glitch, but it wasn't from the HoloLens.
Okay.
So anyway, the Minecraft area projected on the table in 3 dimension, and then he could move it around. He could lift it up. He could, zoom into things. And the reason I don't think it was pre-recorded was because the woman playing along with him on the surface, when she went to get in the minecart, she got stuck, and you could tell he was waiting on her.
Like, come on.
Yeah, because she wasn't jumping in the minecart, and she was taking forever to get in it. So that's why I actually think it was a live demo, which actually makes me happy because that means that was being rendered in real time.
Right, like it's there. Right.
Yeah, and Here's the whole thing. I've been around the gaming industry since the ColecoVision days, and so I've seen all sorts of peripherals come along. And the HoloLens is not strictly a gaming peripheral. Let's be clear about that.
Right. More of like a computer.
Exactly. But I've been around long enough that I've seen all these peripherals come and go, and they always promise you the moon, and then they deliver you Tallahassee.
Right.
I mean, let's all take a look at the Power Glove, one of the most famous examples from Nintendo's 8-bit system days.
Mm.
It was horrifically bad. It was just horrible. I bought one buying into the hype. I remember I was much younger. That, and then of course there was like the Sega CD system, which attached to the Genesis. It was horrible. I mean, there's been a number of peripherals over the years that have sucked.
Right.
If the HoloLens can deliver even 50-60% of what we've seen, even that will be a game changer. And I'm not making a pun.
Yeah. No, it's true. I mean, because the gaming is just a small component of what HoloLens can do, because it's also full computing experience. And I think that's what makes it so incredible. And, when you look at Oculus and you look at some of the other ones, they're awesome. I can't wait for the final versions of those. But I think in a lot of ways, you're consuming and interacting with an environment, but I wouldn't say you're computing all the time. Whereas HoloLens, right. You can actually do stuff. I can work from a HoloLens.
Well, I was on a Skype call with Ron Duell, who's our writer from Japan. He's not at E3, so he and I were working remotely, and he and I were trying to figure out, okay, so this is great for Minecraft. That's a prime example, but what other potential gaming scenarios could you put this into? Because you're not going to play like a first-person shooter with it,
right?
But basically anything with a top-down mapping system would work perfectly with it. And we thought about like The Sims, SimCity.
Yeah.
Even if you go back into some of Nintendo's old games and like Zelda: A Link to the Past.
Right.
StarCraft 2 could even potentially work. There's a lot of anything with a map-based system, Civilization.
Yeah. That would be StarCraft would be amazing. If you could
exactly
troops and send them and
on
your living room floor.
A Zerg rush coming at you.
Yeah.
All these little Zergs.
So terrifying.
I know. I actually, that kind of creeps me out to think about.
Yeah. All these bugs running on your floor.
But now I will say this, the HoloLens, you could tell that was a slightly redesigned headset he was wearing, different than what we've seen before.
Mm-hmm.
Not significantly, but at least somewhat. It's definitely getting out of the realm, though, of out walking on a street.
Right. I don't think that's where we're going to go with that.
Yeah, and like I've said before, and famously have said before, that I would love assistance with reality. Augmented reality is definitely something I'm very intrigued by, but I can't see myself wearing the HoloLens walking down the street.
Right. Yeah. I think it's more of like similar to the way you wear Oculus, but we're talking about virtual reality, and then we're talking about augmented reality. And so, but I think they're both sort of, you're sitting or maybe walking around a small room with Microsoft's HoloLens, but it's not like Google Glass.
Now, here's a really interesting comment from Brazen Franco. I don't know about you guys, but I don't think HoloLens will be a thing compared to Oculus. Well, I take the complete opposite view of it than you do, Brazen, and I'll tell you why. I think the fact that with the Oculus, you're completely shut off from the outside world in the sense of your sight, I think that's going to be a detriment to virtual reality in general, because it's going to get very, people are going to trip over things. People are, are you making fun of me? I think that virtual reality in general, be it Oculus, Project Morpheus, any of those, mm-hmm. I think a lot of the problem is that it does shut you off so much from the outside world. And I think that people will be intrigued by it. They'll use it, but it will quickly go in a drawer. With HoloLens, I see a lot of potential beyond gaming. I see a lot of other uses for it, like they've demonstrated to us, a television anywhere you go, maps, all sorts of things. So I think that HoloLens has a lot more potential uses than, say, an Oculus Rift.
Yeah, I think so too. That's why I was sort of saying it's like it's not entirely a consumption sort of mechanism, where Oculus is just like, I mean, you are consumed, right? Like you're not only consuming, it is consumed you, which is kind of interesting. I'm excited for them both, but for totally different reasons. I think Oculus is just incredible, the way you're really entering a whole other world almost. Whereas HoloLens, I think it's different, because you're still in this world.
Right, exactly. So I don't know. Now, of course, the big question about HoloLens, two big questions. When is it coming?
And price, yeah.
And the price.
Yeah.
The price that keeps sticking in my head, and this is complete guess, everyone, complete guess, is $499.
Oh, wow. I was going like $1,500, but I have no idea either. That's a complete guess.
Well, I mean, if they go $1,500, they're going to fall into the Google Glass category.
Yeah, I know. That's the trouble. They have to be affordable.
Yeah, that's the whole thing. I mean, when they get to the consumer model, I think it cannot go over $499. I just don't think it can. Now, and actually, we have a question from Sachin Bahal, somewhat related to this. What do you think of the final version, also known as consumer, of the Oculus Rift, and how much do you think it will cost? $300, $400, $500, or $1,000, or some other price? Also, at the Oculus event, there was no mention of Facebook at all at the event. That's true. Facebook owns them, so. Now you've talked with the guys from Oculus many times, Todd. Yeah. I know they've never given you a definitive price, but have they ever even given you a hint?
No, they haven't given me a hint. HTC didn't either with the Vive, which I consider a similar product, just in the sense that they're both virtual reality. But they did say, when I was with HTC, and Oculus has said this too, you need this computer. And I think that's going to be, I hope that's the bulk of the cost, right? Like when you have the Gear VR, it's only $200 because there's just like some plastic in it and your phone's powering it. And when you come to Oculus, sure, there's the sensors on the outside, there's all that kind of stuff, the displays on the inside, but your computer's doing the bulk of the work there. So I think it's going to be split. Like you're probably going to spend a lot of money, but also because you need that computer and then the Oculus headset.
Yeah, I don't know what it's going to end up costing. I think that's a lot of it, is that people have got to realize that these things are not going to be cheap. Yes, it's great to dream about them and think about what they could potentially do, but they're not going to be. You're not going to find them on the shelves at Walmart.
Yeah, they're not for exactly. They're not a budget. It's not a budget system by any means. I mean, this is cutting edge technology. This didn't exist a year ago, or 2 years ago. Previous models of it did, but so you got to be prepared to pay those kind of prices.
Right. Well, the second topic we wanted to touch on this week was Cortana. And you were talking to me yesterday, Todd, about the fact that Cortana is coming to the Xbox.
Well, yeah, I just thought it was neat. Microsoft has already said, iOS and Android. Then yesterday, Microsoft said it'll hit Android next month. Which I'm excited for, because I think Cortana is a really great voice engine. It's just, I don't want to say unfortunately, but it's unfortunately stuck on Windows Phone for the most part, and soon coming to Windows 10, which is exciting, and then and now to the Xbox One. And I thought, wow, this is really cool, because we have our smartwatches now and our phones, and the phone reminds us to do stuff through the smartwatch, but then when it's connected to your TV in your living room and then says like, hey, don't forget you got to go do this or something. I thought that was pretty cool.
But, well, here's the thing, though. Without the Kinect attached to the Xbox, there's no built-in microphone.
Right, exactly.
So this actually could give people a reason to reconnect their Kinects. I'll believe that when I see it.
Right.
And now the fact that Microsoft is selling the Xbox without the Kinect,
it's sort of like, what's the point?
Yeah. So, I mean, I'll still be interested to see how it interfaces, but it's not going to be for everyone, unfortunately, because of the whole Kinect debacle.
Well, I don't know, because I didn't see it yesterday. I was sort of just reading about it through the Android announcement because they sort of combined Android and Xbox One in the announcement I was reading yesterday. Can you just use a headphone though? I mean, like we're doing right now, and say, "Hey, Cortana."
Yes, you can plug in a headphone. Yeah,
right. Okay. So I mean, in some instances, but I think it's not so much that I thought that was cool. You know, like, "Hey, Cortana, what's the weather?" or something like that on Xbox, which it is. But it's more that, you know, I can do these things on my phone, and then those come over to the Xbox sort of seamlessly. And it's the story Microsoft's telling about Windows 10 everywhere, even though they're different versions and SKUs. Technically, it's still this idea that it's everywhere. And in some cases, parts of it are on, you know, soon other phones, so iOS and Android. But yeah, I was just actually yesterday installing the latest. I don't know if I have the phone here. The latest build of Windows 10 for yeah, I do, on a 1520. I wanted to play with it. Windows 10 Mobile.
How is it so far?
I actually it just installed and then I left yesterday. But Microsoft promised they did like a lot of UI changes. A lot of stability. They changed Cortana. They have a new one-handed mode. So there should be a lot of changes in this one. In fact, it's such a big update that they, if you were in the beta tester program, it's called Windows Insider early, which I was, and you've already installed that version of Windows 10. You now have to revert back to Windows 8.1 and then install this. So it's kind of you got to jump through hoops. Took me a while, but here we go. Just turned on.
Well, cool.
But yeah, I'm excited to play with it. So here.
Yeah, it'll definitely be interesting to see. And we do have a question about Cortana here. Where did it go? They've really got to come up with a better way to look at these questions.
I think I see it from Sachin Bahal. How is Cortana compared to Google now?
Yep, I just found it. What do you think about Microsoft is bringing Cortana to other platforms when they could just be the best on Windows Phone to help and to compete with Google Now and Siri? That actually wasn't the question I was looking for, but it works as well. So I think that bringing Cortana to other platforms is smart because it might. Well, if it works this well on my iPhone, it must work even better on a Windows phone.
Right. And that's sort of the mentality. And plus, it's about Windows 10. You know, like you have it on your new laptop. Cortana's there, so why not have it on your phone too, and bringing that experience through everything. But I'm not sure how well it's going to work. I'm excited. You know, how does it tap into the emails properly and all that on other platforms, or is it just that it's pulling it from, you know, your desktop computer? I'm not sure. But I do have some complaints about it. The other question was, how does it compare to Siri and Google Now?
Yep.
Siri, I have the iOS 9 beta. Obviously, it's not meant for your everyday phone, but I do that. She's not very good on that either. And I know she's supposed to have improved. And Google Now always impresses me. I saw an article yesterday, not very good internationally, which I wasn't actually aware of because I haven't used it that much internationally. But the reason I like Google Now so much is for when you trying to grab that traffic information or points of interest, it's all related from Google Maps, which is obviously, I think we could agree, probably the best mapping software out there.
Hands down.
Cortana is still pulling it in from, I guess it's Here Maps still, I think, or Bing or something. And it's not good. So the points of interest have always been sort of a weak point for me in that, and it's still not great. So I actually did try and I've joked about this in the past, but like, you know, remind me to get eggs at the A&P, and it put like some A&P airport in like some other state. And I was like, when am I ever going to go there? Like, what? Like, that's not a point of interest near me that I would be interested in. Like, that doesn't even make sense. Why would I get eggs at an airport? And so I wish it was sort of smarter with that kind of stuff.
Really, why would anyone get eggs at an airport?
Yeah, right, unless you scrambled eggs.
Oh, man, I'm about to board. If I only had a dozen eggs.
That's right. Yeah, it's just kind of like, what? Although I gotta say, I was in Tahiti on my honeymoon, and the airports there were chickens running around inside. So maybe you could get eggs if there.
That's not something I've ever.
Yeah, they don't have the same regulations as the United States. What else? I'm trying to think, but you know, Cortana's pretty good. It's good at all the sports and stuff like that, and actually, it has a card-based interface that's very similar to Google Now in a lot of instances too.
Right. Well, we're going to move on into questions, which we've got a lot coming in, and we thank you for that. Now, folks, I will warn you, I see a lot of E3 questions, and while I've been involved in most of E3, Todd has not been involved in very much at all.
Right.
We're also, neither of us are gaming experts. So we will take some of the E3 questions, but we may not be able to answer as in depth as, say, Joey will be able to next week.
Right.
And of course, this was the big news out of Microsoft, and this question comes from Sachin Bahal. Is the upcoming backwards compatibility on the Xbox One a welcomed additional feature, or is it just meh? I think it is an extremely welcomed addition. Yeah. It's something that should have been there since launch. It's something that should have been there since launch on both systems.
Mm-hmm.
In this day and age, the idea that you can release a system that is not at least one generation backwards compatible to me is just wrong.
Right. Why can't it? What was stopping it?
Yeah, exactly.
There was,
Exactly. I mean, and it does have to do with emulation and all that sort of stuff. That's fine, but you have the technological ability, and before the PlayStation 2 there wasn't backwards compatibility. That was something that Sony introduced to the world.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a very welcomed addition to the world. I mean, before that we had always had like, your Nintendo cartridge doesn't fit in your Super Nintendo.
Right. You're like, oh well, I can't.
or the stupidity of the fact that the Japanese cartridges were built slightly differently than the American cartridges, so you couldn't slap a Super Famicom cartridge in your Super Nintendo without an adapter.
Yeah, that's just weird.
Yeah, it was stupid, but whatever. So yeah, the backwards compatibility hasn't been with us that long, but with Microsoft announcing this, it just proves that it could have been there from the get-go.
Right.
And so while I think it's exciting that they've done this, it also annoys me a little bit because it could have been there since launch day.
Yeah, it's frustrating.
Yeah. And
that is what they're doing, right? It's like an emulator inside, like it's like a software edition. That's
Yeah.
When is that coming exactly?
They didn't give an exact date. It's just it's supposed to be sometime in the next couple months. But,
in the lifetime of Windows 10, right? like HoloLens or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. But you look at now Sony, they're going to have to do it.
Right.
Because otherwise Microsoft is going to hold this over their head until the next generation without question.
Mm-hmm.
But will Sony do it? We'll just have to find out. From Sachin Bahal as well. Hey, Sean, how's your Pebble time so far? Honestly, I love it, but it's not that much more than the original Pebble. And the battery life is definitely worse.
I just plugged mine in again last night after not really using it.
Yeah, the 7 days is bumpkus. It's about 5, which is not bad, but it's not the 7 I was promised.
Right. Yeah. And what did they say for steel? Like 10 days, right? Like what's changed that makes it 10?
I have no idea.
Yeah.
None.
10 days is nice.
From President Franco, and this is actually something I've wanted to address for the past couple of days. Can we all agree that Nintendo won and EA wasn't the most boring? Meaning, what company won E3? Folks, here's the thing. I don't agree with the concept of any one company winning E3. At the end of the day, I think that the winners are the gamers.
Right.
We have seen some amazing titles over the past couple of days. We've heard some great additions to the systems. The gamers won. To declare that any one company won E3 has just never made a lot of sense to me.
Right.
That being said, yeah, Nintendo had a great show. I think that Nintendo kind of set the world on fire in the world of toy-based games by announcing that Skylanders and Amiibo are teaming up.
Mm-hmm.
That boggled my mind. Kudos to them. But no, I don't think that Nintendo won. I will say that this EA definitely was not the most boring this year. That award would go to Bethesda, and we publicly said that on Sunday night and got alive for it. But I think Bethesda, and you have to give them some leeway because it was their first ever big conference presentation like that. But no, it was pretty snoozeville. From Manav 9900, off topic. Why don't you try a live stream on Periscope once? There's a couple of reasons that we decided to do it through Hangouts. Number one is it also transmits to our YouTube channel at the same time, as well as Todd and I, when we record, we actually record our audio separately. He then emails me over his audio file and I combine the two, and that's how you get the audio podcast. But with this, if anything should go wrong with those two audio files, this is not as high quality, but it gives me an emergency backup that I can strip the audio out of the video if it should ever need to be done. We had to do that once on Tech on the Range.
Right.
And that kind of convinced us that, yeah, we need to have a backup audio. Because in the world of technology, something will go wrong at some point.
Right. Always.
Always. From Sachin Bahal, when do you think HoloLens will be available for consumers to purchase, and what do you think it will cost? Okay, well, we've already covered the cost thing, but as Todd made a joke about a few moments ago, it's announced for within the lifespan of Windows 10.
Yeah, they said like with Windows 10 or something, which seems like could be years.
It could be launch day, or it could be 2 years down the road.
Yeah, I don't think it'll be July 29th. That seems way too soon.
There's absolutely no way it's that day.
Yeah,
none. But no, we have no clue as to what the release date is.
Right.
Not a bit, unfortunately. Let's see. Moving on from Nav 9900. Which E3 event do you like, Microsoft or Sony? I liked them both. I thought Microsoft was a lot stronger than it has been the past couple years.
Yeah.
I think Sony needs more exclusives. Definitely, although it was very telling to me that a lot of companies came out and said, and you'll get this first on Sony, and you'll get to do that first on Sony. And that tells you that they know which platform is winning. And I'm sorry, folks, the numbers don't lie. Sony is winning this generation at the moment by a considerable number.
Yeah.
So it's not.
And I guess, what is it? Black Ops, right? Is going to be the new Black Ops is a PS4.
Yep. Well, it's not going to be exclusive to PS4, but it's going to get a lot of stuff first. First, right. Yeah, it's going to get maps first, DLC first, beta first. Yeah, all that sort of stuff. So, yeah, I think it's pretty clear that Sony is getting a little bit further in the gaming industry at the moment. From Jason D123, will Windows, Apple, and Android make a phone all joined together? Cortana, Siri, and S-Voice. Interested to see a phone for the three platforms. What do you think? I think that would be awesome. It will never happen.
It'll never happen.
Never.
Actually, Android's is Google Now. S-Voice is just for Samsung. But what is it? Hound is pretty cool. I was using that recently, which is sort of just a standalone voice assistant or a smart assistant on Android. It's still in beta, but it's sort of like, it's not made by any of them.
Yeah. No, it would be cool, but it will never happen. From Brazen Franco, am I the only one disappointed about Sony for announcing just one Vita game during their conference? Funny story. So Ron, as I said, lives in Japan, and he and I were on Skype the entire time. And in Japan, it is quite common. You have very long train commutes. So Ron does a lot of gaming on the train. And throughout the entire Sony presentation, I just kept hearing him mumble, "Come on, Vita. Announce something for Vita. Come on, announce something for Vita." All throughout the conference, I'm like, "Ron, they'll get to Vita." And then they threw one game for Vita. He's like, "You told me they'd get to Vita." I was like, I don't control this, Ron.
Yeah. Oh, that's pretty sad.
Yeah. It does. Vita is a great little system. I don't know why it hasn't caught on like the 3DS. I mean, the 3DS is huge.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't understand why the Vita doesn't get a lot more love from Sony, but
The PS4 remote play stuff is awesome, but I know it doesn't count as its own games, but like that's the only reason I use it.
oh, speaking of Sony, you told me yesterday that you had something you wanted to share about the upcoming Xperia phone for Verizon.
I was just saying this is the flagship that that Sony should have launched in the first place. They have the Xperia Z4, and then yesterday morning they announced the Xperia Z4V for Verizon, which is it's basically the same phone, but with a quad HD display instead of a 1080p screen. So you get Snapdragon 810, you get the 20.7 megapixel camera and all that stuff. But it's just like, oh, so you're able to do it, but you don't do it until like Verizon comes and pushes you to do it, which I thought was kind of weird. I mean, just sell the Xperia Z4 with a quad HD display. Why does it have last year's tech? And I mean, which is sort of like what HTC did with the One M9 too. It has 1080p screen, which is just, I mean, we've talked about it before. 1080p looks fine, whatever, but like why it's not flagship tech.
Exactly. And so if you've gone and slapped it into a carrier exclusive phone, all you're saying to all of us is that, well, yeah, we could have done it on the other one, but you weren't deserving.
Right. And like we bow to Verizon's commands because we don't have any relationships with US carriers. I mean, last time Sony launched the Z3V last year, it was like a plastic version of like, it was like a Z2 Plus. It wasn't even as good as the Z3. And then this year it went the other way. So last year it was like inferior, and this year it's superior.
You don't go and make a carrier exclusive better than your flagship. That makes no sense.
No, I know. It's really bizarre.
Yeah, I don't get it, but I'm excited to see it. Even though
I mean, it's coming out this summer. It's waterproof, they say, and all that kind of stuff, which is crazy. Sorry, I was going through the documents, and everybody says like waterproof and all that, and they really mean, and and like, you know, you see the TV commercials and stuff. People are jumping in pools with their phones. What they really mean is fresh waterproof. So like in the sink, you know, in a lake, but you can't they always say in the small print, like don't go in a chlorine swimming pool, don't go in salt water, all kinds of stuff. And I feel like consumers don't really know that. There's probably an article there.
More likely, because that I actually did not know that about the salt water.
Yeah, I guess because it conducts electricity a little better. I don't know.
Good to know, because you know
it's more corrosive. I don't know.
I just tend to dive into oceans with my phones, but
well, I go fishing in them, and I have brought that in waterproof phones.
No, and that's exactly, that's something you should know.
Yeah,
but it's definitely not something they make clear.
No,
interesting. From Sachin Bahal, I currently have an Xbox 360, and I've been thinking about getting an Xbox One for a while now, and the announcement that Microsoft made convinced me even more to want to get one. When would be the right time to buy one this year from now until holiday 2015? Honestly, at this stage of the year, you don't buy any major electronic really until Black Friday starts rolling around.
Yeah, the big sales. Although, to counter that argument, I'd say the sooner the better, so you have more time to enjoy it.
That's true. Now, and on the gaming consoles in particular, you may not see a huge price drop on them, but a lot of times you'll see them come with 1, 2, even 3 game pack-ins.
Right, but nice bundles.
Yeah, so you get a lot more bang for your buck if you wait until the holiday season on the gaming consoles. So if you can hold out that long, I would wait till the holiday season without question. From Brazen Franco, speaking of carrier exclusives, why in the US carriers exclusives are a common thing to do? Because the carriers throw a bunch of money at the phone companies and say, make us a phone.
Yeah, and like we want this to be our flagship and to attract people into our stores, because the idea, at least with trying to think, I think it was like the HTC Cha-Cha-Cha, which was the AT&T Facebook phone with the Facebook button, or it might have been the Salsa, whatever it was in the United States. They put it in they're like, this is our flagship, and they put it in the store window because they hope people, walking by on the streets are like, I've never seen that. Verizon doesn't carry that phone. And you go in. Of course, that phone failed, but that's the idea, especially with exclusive colors and stuff like that too. That's like, Best Buy, you'll have like the blue HTC One M8, and you have to go to Best Buy to get it.
I will tell this story very carefully because I don't want to identify any of the parties that were involved. But there was once a phone that came out that I thought was incredibly stupid that it even existed.
Oh, was it the Fire phone? No, we publicly trashed
that. So I'm at a CES party and I run into someone I know fairly well from the manufacturer of that phone. And I was like, what were you guys thinking? What was up with that phone? And he goes, that wasn't our idea.
Yeah.
The carrier asked us for that. I was like, you're kidding me. He's like, oh no. They came to us and asked for that phone.
Yeah, that's the other thing that happens.
I was like, wow, that's not good. Maybe you shouldn't do that again. But they
also control the names a lot of the times too, which can be sort of confusing.
Yeah, exactly. So a lot of times when you see phones out there, you have to think twice. You may go, oh, that's such an odd phone to exist. Why did they do that? It may have been the carrier that asked for it, especially if it's exclusive to that carrier.
Right.
So, I don't know. Very, very odd.
In the case of the Z4V, I mean, that's pretty cool for Verizon customers. At least they have an option. That's nice.
Yeah. From Manav 9900, why doesn't TechnoBuffalo get an E3 event try for next year? We are at the point where we are discussing doing events, but it's a logistics thing, especially since we're so spread out. As you all know, yes, John's out in Irvine, California, and Brandon, Roy, Ralph, Ron, and Mark are with him. But then you have Todd and Jacob in New York. I'm in Missouri. Joey's in Delaware. Ron's in California. Eric's in Michigan or Minnesota. And so we're very spread out. But it is something that we've started discussing doing down the road. When? I have no idea.
Right.
But keep an eye out. I'm sure we will announce something at some point in the future. Just not sure if it's distant or near. From Brazen Franco, no one asked it yet, so I'll do it this week. What have you returned this week, Todd?
Nothing. I haven't. Trying to think. I think it's been one of those weeks where I haven't really left my apartment, which means it's a busy week. So I haven't returned anything. I haven't really left the seat that I'm sitting in.
Yeah. For those that don't know, I live on a large piece of property, which is out in the woods. But I have been known to go as long as 2 weeks without stepping foot off my property.
Oh, I believe it.
Now I do. I walk between the buildings, so I do go outside. I just don't walk off of my property.
Yeah, I have weeks where the only place I go is to the Starbucks at the bottom of my building, which is bad.
Well, are you going to
until the weekend?
Are you going to ask them to open an extension on your floor?
Yeah, they should. Well, that's why I'm excited. Here's more relevant news. Yesterday, Starbucks announced that they're spreading the ordering system, mobile ordering, to some odd thousand new 3,400 new locations, I think, which is cool because you can just order your drinks from your phone and it'll say like estimate time to pick up 6-7 minutes, and then you just walk into Starbucks and go right to the pickup counter.
The only problem
for me that's convenient because I'd order it right now and go downstairs and pick it up.
The problem for me is I use a refillable cup, so they can't have my coffee waiting. And all I ever get is black, Pike Place or whatever.
Oh, yeah, so it's real quick.
Yeah, I once had a guy at a Vegas Starbucks. I walked up and ordered that. The cashier kind of looked at me and he goes, "That's all?" I was like, "Yeah." And next guy in line looked at me and goes, "That is the simplest Starbucks order I think I've ever heard in my life." I'm like, I just want black coffee. But
yep. Pretty simple. I guess I'm similar. I get the iced black coffee, so it's just but I put milk in it.
I'm sorry. I just like black coffee. From Sachin Bahal, are any of you guys going to get an Oculus Rift, Project Morpheus headset, or Valve's VR headset when it comes out? Not until I get to try one and see if I even have any interest in it.
Mine's going to be about the killer games or something. I've said this for a while. I want this big MMO I can explore, like a World of Warcraft or something. And it seems like that's going to take a little while.
Yeah. Now,
I'll probably wait for a bit.
Now, if Project Morpheus has support for No Man's Sky, the space exploration game,
Yeah.
I might be sold real fast.
Yeah.
Because that looks so awesome. Yes, Jason, we like you. We had a question.
I don't think I saw that question.
Jason D123 wants to know if we like him. Yes, we like you, Jason. Let's see here from Brazen Franco. How many of the trailers gameplay presented during E3 do you think are a trusty, real representation of the final product? I already flagged every Ubisoft game. Okay, for those that don't know, over the past couple of years, there's been a real problem with the companies juicing up their trailers that they show at E3. The most famous example of the past couple of years, of course, is Aliens Colonial Marines, which was nothing as good as what we were shown. And there actually was a class action lawsuit filed over that, and the class won. It was pretty horrifically obvious that they had messed with it. So a lot of trailers are in question. There's been a lot of questions over the past couple of years. Now, I will say this. Joey just recently, this morning, turned in his hands-on with Assassin's Creed Syndicate, which, as we all know, Assassin's Creed Unity was a complete and utter train wreck. Joey...
It really was.
It was. Joey is a very, very critical gamer. And he actually reached out to me last night shortly after he had played Syndicate. And he goes, I think they listened to every criticism from last year. He says it's highly more stable. And by no means does this qualify as a review, folks. So please don't take it that way. But he said it was far more stable. It was the most stable Assassin's Creed demo he has played at an E3 in years. In past years, he's seen characters glitch out, pops, frame rate drops, everything else. He saw none of that this year. So that's not to say that there hasn't been some tweaking to the trailers this year, but I think a lot of the companies have learned their lesson, especially with the threat of lawsuits hanging over their head, that one has now been lost. So I'm not going to say that everything was 100% truthful, but I don't think it's anywhere as bad as it used to be. All right, we've got time for one more question here, so let me just jump on down. This is a great point. I saw a lot of this on Twitter from Brazen Franco. Feeling bad for all those who sold their entire 360 collection to move on to the next gen. Yeah.
That is a huge bummer.
That is a huge bummer. I saw several tweets like that after the announcement the other night. I went through one stage where I sold off almost every gaming system I had. This was a long time ago. But since the PlayStation 2 days, when the PS3 and the Xbox 360 came out, I decided to always keep one generation back as well, because they're still decent games. And I just didn't see the point. I wasn't going to get that much for them, so why not keep them around and play the games that I liked? That being said, I still have a Dreamcast. I still have a Super Nintendo. But yeah, for those folks that sold off all their 360 games, I feel for you. That sucks big time. Well, that is going to bring today to a close. Do check out the site a little bit later. We are going to be have some coverage of whatever it is that Nest is announcing today, and thankfully,
Nest is coming up in 15 minutes.
Yes, and I like to think that Nest knew that they were going to conflict with the TechnoBuffalo Show if they went earlier, as Microsoft tends to ignore us. But so please do check out whatever it is that Nest has to announce. But as always, we do appreciate you joining us. You can head over to the iTunes store and search for the TechnoBuffalo Show, and that's how you'll find us. We do appreciate if you rate and review the show. That does help us out. You can also find us on Pocket Cast. You can find us via RSS feed. You can find us on the Stitcher app, which means you can listen to us anytime, anywhere. Anywhere you can find podcasts, you can find the TechnoBuffalo Show. Until next week, I'm Sean Ani. I'm the editor-in-chief of TechnoBuffalo. I have been joined by Deputy Managing Editor Todd Hazelton.
Bye, everybody.
Till next week, take it easy, everyone. We'll see you then. Bye-bye.